Multi-harvesting will increase your yield and overall ROI. In this video, we're going to get into it. You're here with Mark Batwell on Perfect Gardens TV. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. So let's go ahead and get into this video. Just want to say thank you so much to K Goldsby. Can I harvest the lower buds and leave the top colas? Okay, so I would actually flip that around. I would actually harvest the top colas and leave the lower buds to fill in. And the reason why is actually for multiple reasons. First, if there is any possible mold or problems going on within the plant, you're going to definitely see it within normally the larger flowers before you're going to see it in the smaller flowers, just because there's more aeration around the smaller flowers and so on. So if you go in and that's where a lot of your return on investment is locked up, right? In those more mature flowers. So by going in there and taking off those center flowers, it's actually going to open up your plant to more airflow, and you're going to actually have more light, whatever's light left in the environment, or if you're growing outdoors or if you're growing indoors. Opening up that plant by cutting out the center is going to just again allow for more airflow, which is going to give a more difficult environment for bugs, gnats, and other things to keep damaging your plants, or at least it's just going to slow them down. By doing that, whether you have bugs or you don't have bugs, it's going to actually give more time for those smaller flowers to actually fill in and get tighter, denser, and bring in the yield. Believe it or not, your yield can actually increase more with all those smaller flowers densing up and getting thicker than the yield you can increase in that cola if you let it go slightly longer. So let me try to explain that one more time. That cola maybe is 10-15% of your yield, right? 80% of your biomass is on that lower portion. So if you just get rid of that center cola that's taking up the best light and is kind of blocking the rest of your flowers, you're going to end up increasing more yield because there's more surface area and flower sites on the rest of that plant. So just being able to incorporate in a multi-yield harvest, and also when you cherry pick your harvest, depending upon whether you get into a wet harvest or a dry harvest, and I'm hesitant to actually even release that video because I shot that video 3 times, ended up being over an hour 3 times talking about the drying and curing and drying. But just get very lightly into this. By cherry picking your flowers, you can start the trimming and the curing process sooner, whichever way you decide to cure and trim, whether it's a wet or a dry. And by taking those colas, you're able to once again create that systematic approach so that when you have the rest of your harvest, the 80% that's going to be following, you have an idea of how the product's going to flow through from the plant or the grow room or the greenhouse to the trimming room or into the drying room, because you might be going to a dry cure, and then onto the machine room, which could be trimming it, or into your storage facility, or then onto your storage facility if you're going wet. You know, there's 2 avenues. Once again, there's a wet avenue and a dry avenue. I don't want to get into it. I'll save it for that other video when I release it. But this multi-harvest technique will dramatically increase your yield. If you have the sunlight and if you don't have bad weather coming in, and you're able to take that center cola and just give the flowers around it, the bottom 2/3 of that flower, you give that more time to mature. Once again, it's going to make a world of difference. And I think I've actually might have missed that suggestion in this video, because someone commented, they said, why didn't you tell them to do a multi-harvest? And I was like, oh man, I must have missed that. That was also part of the factor, right? Is when I say wait a week, that you can use that center cola as a peg of the possible potential of the rest of those flowers, right? As long as you have the right grow environment, that plant will still keep growing, as long as it's not mineral deficient and so on. That's also kind of a reason why I don't recommend to flush, is because unless you want to get the salts out of your soil, is because if the plant can keep growing, it's going to keep increasing your yield. And if your plant's not degrading, obviously you're not leaving it out in harsh conditions, you're watering it, you're taking care of the plant, then I'm not going to be totally concerned about that, because I will pay attention. I'll bring in the rest of the yield and plant when it's appropriate, or when I think I'm getting my best return on investment. This will also once again alleviate the workload while trimming all of your inventory, your flowers, right? Because if you cherry pick and you get that going, by the time you come back to that first plants that you cherry picked, they're going to, so let's say you have a greenhouse and you start and you cherry pick everything. Well, by the time you come back to that first plant that you had cherry picked, those flowers are going to be more mature. So you cherry pick that and then move on to the next section, and then move on to the next section. Then before you know it, by the time you get back over there, the third picking is going to be even full again, and then you go back and you harvest again. If you have the extended growing season, there's no reason why you shouldn't give these plants the ability to yield more, especially if you're an outdoor grower or even indoor grower. If it's not taking up space for the new plants, and it's really interesting too. A lot of times I've seen a mistake, right, where a lot of new growers will put their new plants and give them just as much space as the big plants that are right about to be harvested. That makes no sense. You know, I would have, what we used to do is actually just slowly expand the operation as it was needed. So we might have a tray of clones, right, and those tray of clones will go into a pot area where maybe we were able to have 16 pots, and those 16 pots, when they went into flowering, would then get transferred into 8 and 8, or something along those lines. Is as the plant needs more space, we would give it more space. Same situation. There's no reason why you can't be moving in the new crop while the old crop is slowly being shuffled out, and you're being more efficient in your crop. Because if you've spent 3 or 4 months growing it, why don't you spend an extra few days or an extra week or two really maxing out that return on the investment and the overall yield? And yes, I do understand that a lot of this industry is going to essential oils. It's not staying in the flower in consumer area, but I personally would keep more of my inventory in the flower than in trying to transfer it into the oil, because I could always take it to the oil at any point, but keeping it in that flower state until I know exactly what I'm going to do with it, I think slightly makes more sense, unless I have the proper conditions to protect that inventory. Remember, I'm always going to say this, that there are special conditions always. If you have PM, botrytis, bugs, mold, people that you think are going to steal your crop, all these things will matter on the day you decide to harvest and bring your crop out from the field, you know, into your processing facilities. So understand that there is benefits on extending your crop, and that there's, you know, cons as well to doing it, because, you know, bad weather can come in or whatever. So just be systematic through your process and understand that you've spent 3 or 4 months growing this crop. There's no reason why you should rush this process and shoot yourself on the foot on the yield that you could end up actually bringing in, just if you were a little bit more patient or methodical through your harvesting processes. Thank you so much. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Have a great grow, everyone.